Good morning, everyone. I am Mr. Ishitu Tasfaye, your biology teacher. This is grade 11 biology week 13 lesson. The lesson for this week is about the endocrine system. Your textbook page 978 to 981. Objectives of the lesson. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe the structure and function of the endocrine system and explain how hormones work. In this lesson, the endocrine system, we are going to discuss two main sections. The first section is about hormones and glands. The second main section will be about hormone action. Now, let's start our lesson with the first one, which is about hormones and glands. What are the components of the endocrine system? The endocrine system is made up of glands, basically the endocrine glands that release hormones into the bloodstream. And the function of these hormones is to deliver message throughout our body. The function of the endocrine system is analogous to the way radio works. It broadcasts chemical message through chemicals known as hormones. The hormones are released into one part of the body, travel through the blood, and affect cells in other parts of the body, especially the target areas of each hormone. Hormones can affect almost every cell in the body. Now, let's see how hormones work in very general terms. Hormones act by binding to specific chemical receptors on cell membranes or within cells. Cells that have receptors for a particular hormone are called target cells. So the hormone works only in these areas of the body, the target cells, because these target cells have specific receptors that can identify that particular hormone. If a cell does not have receptors for a particular hormone, the hormone has no effect on it, as it can't be identified there, or as there are no receptors for that particular hormone. In general, the body's responses to hormones are slower and longer lasting than its responses to nerve impulses. It may take several minutes, several hours, or even several days for a hormone to have its full effect on its target cells. Many of the endocrine functions depend on the effects of two opposing hormones or antagonistic hormones, such as those shown below in the diagram. As you can see in this diagram, there are two antagonistic hormones, glucagon and insulin, both of which are secreted by special cells in the pancreas called islets of Langerhans. These special cells in the pancreas releases insulin and glucagon in response to different levels of glucose in the blood. The first situation that we see is when we eat food. When we eat food, the blood glucose level rises above normal. In response to this, the islets of Langerhans in the pancreas secretes insulin into the bloodstream, and this insulin promotes the uptake of glucose and facilitates its conversion into storage form of sugar known as glycogen. On the other hand, the blood glucose level drops between meals, so the level of glucose is below normal. During this situation, the islets of Langerhans in the pancreas releases glucagon, which promotes the breakdown of glycogen back to glucose, so that the level of glucose in the blood will increase to normal. So, as we have seen in the previous slide, the hormone insulin promotes the liver to convert blood glucose to glycogen and store it. The hormone glucagon prompts the liver to convert glycogen back to glucose and release it in the blood. The opposing effects of glucagon and insulin maintain homeostasis by keeping blood glucose levels in a narrow range. Let's see what glands are. A gland is an organ that produces and releases a substance or a secretion. There are two main types of glands. These are exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Exocrine glands release their secretions through tube-like structures called ducts out of the body or directly into the digestive system. Exocrine glands include those that release sweat, tears, and digestive enzymes. Endocrine glands usually are ductless and release their secretions or hormones directly into the blood, which transports the secretions throughout the body. Other body structures such as bones, fat tissue, the heart, and the small intestine also produces and release hormones. This diagram shows the 10 major endocrine glands in the human body. These are hypothalamus, the pineal gland, pituitary gland, thyroid, parathyroid glands, the pancreas, thymus, adrenal glands, ovaries, and testes. These major endocrine glands produce hormones that affect many parts of our body, and we are going to discuss about the hormones secreted by each endocrine gland and the function of the hormones in the upcoming lesson. Now let's see hormone-like substances called prostaglandins. Nearly all cells have been shown to produce a small amount of hormone-like substance called prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are modified fatty acids that are produced by a wide range of cells in the human body. They generally affect only nearby cells and tissues, and thus are sometimes known as local hormones. Now let's discuss the second major section of this lesson, which is about hormone action. How do hormones affect cells? Hormones fall into two major classes. These are steroid and non-steroid hormones. Each type of hormone acts on a target cell in a different way. Steroid hormones are produced from a lipid called cholesterol, while non-steroid hormones include proteins, small peptides, and modified amino acids. Steroid hormones. Because steroid hormones are lipids, they can easily cross cell membranes. Steroid hormones act by entering the nucleus of a cell and changing the pattern of gene expression, making the effects of many steroid hormones especially powerful and long-lasting. How do steroid hormones affect cells? The diagram on the left here illustrates how steroid hormones affect cells. A steroid hormone enters a cell by passing directly across the cell membrane, as you can see here. Then it binds to a steroid receptor protein and forms a hormone receptor complex. Okay, after passing through the cell membrane, it binds to a receptor and forms a hormone receptor complex. Then the hormone receptor complex enters the nucleus of the cell, where it binds to the region of DNA that controls gene expression. You can see here it passes and enters the nucleus, where it binds to a specific region of DNA affecting gene expression. Then this binding initiates the transcription of specific genes to messenger RNA. Finally, the mRNA moves into the cytoplasm and directs protein synthesis in the ribosomes. Therefore, the steroid hormones can enter the nucleus and change the pattern of gene expression in a target cell. Non-steroid hormones. Non-steroid hormones generally cannot pass through the cell membrane of their target cells as they are not lipid soluble. Non-steroid hormones bind to receptors in a target cell and cause the release of secondary messengers that affect the cell activities. How do non-steroid hormones affect cells? The diagram on the left here illustrates the functioning of non-steroid hormones. So, how do they work? A non-steroid hormone binds to receptors on the cell membrane. Here, as you can see, non-steroid hormone, which is the first messenger, binds to receptor on the cell's surface membrane. Then, the binding of the hormone activates enzymes on the inner surface of the cell membrane. There is an enzyme here activated due to the binding of the first messenger, non-steroid hormone, to the receptor on the cell surface membrane. These enzymes release secondary messengers to pass the hormone's message within the cell. One common secondary messenger is cyclic adenosine monophosphate, cyclic AMP, which is produced from ATP. So the enzyme activated here converts ATP into cyclic AMP, which acts as a secondary messenger. This CAMP usually influences the enzymes in our cytoplasm, which in turn bring about change in cellular function. So the secondary messengers can activate or inhibit, for that matter, a wide range of cellular activities. Let's summarize hormone action. How do hormones affect cells? They do affect cells in different ways. Steroid hormones can enter the nucleus and change the pattern of gene expression in a target cell, while non-steroid hormones bind to receptors on a target cell and cause the release of secondary messengers like CAMP that affect cell activities. Finally, let's answer lesson check questions. Question number 1. What are the two components of the endocrine system? Perfect. The two components of the endocrine system are glands and hormones. Question number 2. Explain the difference between endocrine and exocrine glands. Great. The endocrine glands secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream, while exocrine glands raise their secretions through ducts, either out of the body or into the digestive system. Question number 3. How are hormones and prostaglandins similar, and how are they different? Hormones and prostaglandins are both substances that affect cells. While the difference is hormones are produced by endocrine glands and can affect cells throughout the body, whereas prostaglandins are produced by a wide range of cells and act locally. Question number 4. Explain how steroid hormones act on a cell. Well, steroid hormones enter a cell and bind to a receptor. This complex enters the nucleus and alters the cell's gene expression. Question number 5. Explain how non-steroid hormones act on a cell. Non-steroid hormones bind to receptors on cell membranes and cause the release of secondary messengers that affect cell activities. And finally, use what you learned in Chapter 7 about how materials cross cell membranes to explain the actions of steroid hormones and non-steroid hormones. The possible answer for this one can be steroid hormones are lipids, so they can pass through the phospholipid bilayer that makes up the cell surface membrane, while non-steroid hormones are not lipids, so they cannot enter the cell surface membrane. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.